The Bat gets his bike. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Batman's Batcycle. The Batcycle is the Batman's sleekest mode of transport, and perfect for allowing the hero to race through Gotham's streets at breakneck speeds. Before we get a closer look at the Batcycle, how about the first thing we do is figure out how long it is. To do that, I'm going to bring in my ruler and go from wheel to wheel. That's the front wheel to the back wheel. If I'm looking at this then correctly, the Batcycle is 10 inches in length, or just a little over 25 centimeters long. And then we can go ahead and bring in the previously looked at Batman for some size comparisons. Now, the figure obviously is going to be sitting on top of the Batcycle. I'll do this a little later into this review after we actually look at the details on the Batcycle. And then we can also bring in Catwoman too. In the trailer, from what we've seen so far, it seems that both Batman and Catwoman have their own respected vehicles. Now, while we have gotten ourselves a Batcycle for Batman, nothing yet for Catwoman. However, there is a second cycle that McFarlane's team did put out for Bruce Wayne, which I might just ultimately use for Catwoman instead. At least for the time being, not to get ahead of ourselves too much. This is what the two figures look like alongside the Batcycle that we're about to have a look at. The Batcycle comes included with its own accessories, which really isn't the strange part. What is strange, though, is that they decided to package along with it its own trading card. Did the Batcycle really need to have its own trading card? Anyways, as you can see, there's Batman on top of the Batcycle, and in both the cases, it's a photo of the figure and the Batcycle, not a still from the movie, which is something that they have done across the board on all of the figures we've looked at so far, even the one that actually confused me initially, the one that came included with Batman. I thought that may have been a still from the movie, but judging by how shiny this was, it probably would have been a telltale giveaway. Not to mention as well, you can probably see the joint there in his elbow. So yeah, they are still not using stills or source material. I don't know really why. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that they would have to pay for the licensing of using those stills. That's so much more cost effective for them to simply just take photos of the figures that they're producing anyways. Something also I found kind of funny is if you look around to the back of the card, its real name is the Batcycle. Apparently it's not hiding its identity at all. There is a very small, simple to read read-up. You can either pause and read for yourself, or it happens to also be the same thing I read at the beginning of this review as well. I'm going to add this, even though it's not really a character. It's the Batcycle. And again, it felt the need to have its own trading card. Something that also was rather strange to come included with the Batcycle is an alternate hand for Batman. This is one thing I kind of have an issue with. And for this, of course, I'm going to need to bring back in Batman so you can see. Remember when we first had a look at this figure? And I still like this figure. But I had a real issue with the fact that he only came included with this flat hand. Now, you remember this flat hand also had a hole inside the palm that you could then take the grapple gun and you just plug it into the hole. I had made the joke that it looked like Data from Goonies, where he actually had like the little thing that came out from the side of his sleeve. And apparently Batman does the same thing. He has this grapple gun that comes out from the side of his gauntlet, which is why it looks like this. And probably why also that Batman has the flat hand. I mean, for that, I don't argue why it needed to be molded like this, but my biggest issue is the fact that why didn't they include an alternate hands? So if you didn't want to have Batman displayed with the grapple gun, for example, let's just say we're going to leave it off right now. It almost looks like always Batman needs to be shaking someone's hand. Nice to meet you, Batman. Why he couldn't come include with a gripping hand? Oh, he does. But in order to get the gripping hand for Batman, you have to buy the Batcycle. I really think it would have been the other way around. If you're already buying yourself the Batcycle, my logic is that you're already buying it because you already have a Batman, or you're planning to pick up the Batman and not just buy the Batcycle by itself. If that was the case, why wouldn't they have included this hand with Batman and then just not include anything with the Batcycle other than the display stand and the trading card? Yeah, we'll even just keep the trading card in there. But yeah, if you did want to use the gripping hand for Batman, you'll have to buy the Batcycle to do the job. Go ahead and just take that Batman's hand off the peg. Just wiggle it back and forth, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And just remove it and free it from its peg. Then go ahead and take the gripping hand for Batman and just line everything back up. While doing it, sometimes the peg does want to shift back and forth for you. It's a bit stubborn in that way. Go ahead and just plug that back into place. And doesn't that look so much nicer? Whether Batman has a grapple gun that comes out from his gauntlet or not, That's not the argument I really wanted to make. It's just the fact that why the figure couldn't have come included with a second gripping hand. And then if you did want to buy the Batcycle or not, you still at least had Batman with 2 gripping hands instead of 1 hand-shaking hand instead. We're going to put Batman to the side for the time being. He will come back, rest assured. The other accessory I probably already alluded to is the fact that the Batcycle comes included with a display stand. It's currently right now on the undercarriage. You can probably already see it. It helps certainly stabilize the bike and certainly prevents it also from falling over. If you remove it, you'll see already there's no kickstand anywhere on the bottom undercarriage of the Batcycle. For a second, I would have wondered why they wouldn't have included a little kickstand. But then again, realizing that they already had a display stand that does all the job anyways, I'm not disappointed for the fact that a kickstand is nowhere to be found on the Batcycle. The display stand is pretty straightforward enough. It's just molded here plastic, flat bottom base that sort of looks like a regular DC Multiverse stand, other than the fact it's got a cup that sort of sits on the top of it. It's all molded. It's all one piece. And all it really is, it doesn't snap in place. It's more of just frictioned in place. It basically just sits on top of the Batcycle, just into the Batcycle like this. It seems to want to be really resistant, though. It's more resistant, really, because you're not putting the weight of gravity down on it. I would also say, too, if you put it too far up the Batcycle and then put it down, let me just do that again so you guys can see here. If you put it all the way up like this, you'll notice that it leaves a gap and the Batcycle doesn't sit quite flush and flat to the surface. Really, the better thing to do is put the display stand down first and then sort of just delicately rest the Batcycle on top of it. And that does more than enough of a job to kind of keep everything in place. And the neat thing about it, though, is also, because it leaves enough of a gap, you can also take the Batcycle and tilt it to the side, or tilt it to this side, and it's still strong and stable. The Batcycle's not going to fall over. They've allotted for, like I said, just enough clearance in between the bottom of the base, and that's probably why, also, the display base doesn't firmly attach to the bottom of it. It deliberately makes that mold awkward so that you can't force the Batcycle onto the display stand. It needs just a little bit of wiggle space, and because it does have the wiggle space, you can also then rock the Batcycle back and forth. And I like that little touch of detail. Very simple, very straightforward the way they've done that. Let's go ahead and take the display stand, move that off to the side, and get a closer look now at the Batcycle. What I do like about this, it sort of looks like a Golden Age Batman Batcycle. Something really rugged and kind of old world looking, like what you would normally expect to see in like the very early, we're talking super early Batman comics. And the one thing I really think is appealing about the design of it, you can see that more of the design is kind of to the front of the cycle, where it leaves more sort of an empty space at the back, where the back of the seat sort of really extends out to where the back rear wheel is going to be. I do like the fact that the front of it looks like a bat head. You see the points to the tops of the ears. It's all molded here in black plastic, and it certainly helps on their part that they added all this additional silver, because if not for that, it's really just all black plastic that they ended up using, except for the fact that you can see that the tires aren't the softest of plastic. I mean, it's not like a rubbery plastic, but it does feel like it's a different type of material that they used. I do like that the tread is at least a different color than the rest of the bike. It breaks things up nicely. It gives it also sort of a look that it's got dirt on it, but I do like the fact that the tires are a different color, sort of an off brownish gray to the otherwise very dark black that they've molded to the rest of the body. You can sort of see the tailpipes now extended out from the bottom of it, right by where his feet are going to be resting on top, that we'll look in a second. Some really nice additional silver that they've added here. I also like here that they've added a more darker kind of gold. It's transitioning nicely, sort of where kind of like, I guess, exhaust pipes as a whole, the smoke and soot and stuff will be basically not soot, but the smoke will be sort of settling on the actual piping. And I like that they've replicated that nicely. Yeah, the silver does do a lot of a nice job to really break up an otherwise all black Batcycle. And you can see as well some nice detailing done. The rivets to the tires, not only as well the interior spokes, they're all painted nicely in silver. Just a little bit of silver, though, going back to the same point I made earlier, really does help to make it look like it's old, it's worn. He's ridden this around several times. So, like, for example, I guess, is that the fuel tank? I guess the fuel tank would be up here, and these would just be like maybe the side motors, for example. You can tell I know very little when it comes to motorcycles, but I do like the look of the motorcycle, right down to the fact that they even got the headlight here, kind of an off bright white orange. It's not even quite orange, it's more like a yellowish white. It looks to kind of look like the headlight is actually on, and all it is really just the painted in that they've done. You can see there's the little controls on the inside. There's not really much to be spoken about. There's like the little side of the handlebars, for example. There's real no read up here, any little display that he would be looking at, for example. I would have nice to have been able to see some readout, something that Batman would be looking at while he's zipping along the bike. But the whole idea is that the bike is supposed to be more cruder in design. It's a little more de-evolved when it comes to the designs of Batman's gadgets. You would imagine as Batman gets a little later into his crime-fighting years that he would come to picking up more advanced gadgets, weapons, vehicles, including like the Batcycle. But this is sort of like Batman's earliest attempts at designing a Batcycle. On the back here, actually, for a second, it looked like a taillight. I would imagine it would be. It still would have to have a taillight of some sort, although it doesn't look like they've actually painted it in. It just kept to the black molded plastic. Tires, as you can imagine, do spin quite freely. The front of it also does spin back and forth as well, but the head, or the front of the bike, as you can see, doesn't spin. It spins on the inside of it, back and forth this way. Anyways, I'm sure you guys will want to see what it looks like with Batman on top, so we're going to go ahead and bring back in the display stand. Just slide over the Batcycle. There we go. And let's go ahead now and bring in Batman, who finally has gripping hands. Thank goodness for that. I'm going to just bend his elbows slightly and just kind of spin these around. Anybody who has had a motorcycle and a figure that sat on a motorcycle growing up, you already know like the position that you have to kind of get a figure in. Bent knees, kind of bent legs, bent elbows, all ready to be put on top of his cycle. So let's go ahead, do that right now. Slide Batman on top and sort of just align everything up, get the feet going on either side of Batman. And then once that's in place, then you can go ahead and start adding Batman's hands to the actual handlebars. It's pretty straightforward too. I mean, the plastic isn't super hard to struggle to deal with. Go ahead and just take one on the one side and then snap the other one on the other side. There we go. And then once that's in place, then we can just straighten out Batman. Make it look a little more like he's actually riding the thing. And then you can actually take his feet, rest his feet on the back here, and we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. And the beauty of this Batman figure is he did have suitable head articulation, so you can actually bring his head up. Nothing would have certainly been worse than having Batman with his head not being able to look up, because then it would question how would Batman be able to even see where he's going? But at least with his head angled up like this, enough clearance allotted to the back of his head, Batman can actually see where he's going. And then from there, you can go ahead and take the display stand once again, put the Batcycle on top of it, lining everything up, of course, the undercarriage of the bike. You've got yourself a nice looking display piece. Things that I think they did well to this is that they've given a good size to the Batcycle. It doesn't feel like it's too small for Batman, which is sometimes one of the issues when it comes to releasing vehicles. The first time that they released that sort of Batmobile as part of the first wave or so of the DC Multiverse, I thought it was too small. This is certainly something that fits well with the size of Batman. Batman doesn't feel like he's an adult riding around on a toddler bike. So like the proportions, I think, are there. The molding is nice for the Batcycle. Colors subtle in some of the places, kind of just really, again, relying on the black plastic. But again, I like the fact that Batman sits on top of it, and it actually looks like Batman can see where he's going. Nice points, awarded points to McFarlane's team for actually being able to mold Batman's head in such a way, planning ahead for the Batcycle release where Batman could actually see where he's going. And of course, the fact that he does have the little display stand down below that helps to stabilize and cradle the bike. When you are putting on the shelf, you don't have to worry about the Batcycle falling over. You won't have that issue, providing you use the display stand that comes included with it. Looking at the Batman's Batcycle, my original plan was actually just to have the Batman figure standing on my shelf and having the grapple gun in his hand, because if I didn't put it in his hand, it would look rather awkward that he has a hole in the middle of his palm and it looks like he wants to shake a whole bunch of Gotham citizens. Post now looking at the Batcycle, as you can see spinning around on final looks here, this is the way I'm going to display Batman figure now on my shelf. I really like the presence it brings a lot more by having him riding on top of the Batcycle. I mean, really, we are also getting another Batman that's unmasked, so if I really did want to have him displayed standing, I think I'm probably going to have that figure standing, where I'm going to keep Batman here with the cowl on top of his Batcycle, because it looks too cool not to display it like this. One thing that McFarlane's team did do well with the Batcycle, not only a detailed bike, but also putting that undercarriage display stand. It doesn't plug in place. It doesn't even friction attach to it. Instead, you're sort of just resting delicately the Batcycle into that little cradle opening, and it allows for a little bit of wiggle space. I don't know if you can tell right now, but I've actually got the Batcycle slightly leaning off to the side. You can also have it leaning to the opposite side too, just because they've left enough space between the undercarriage and that bottom display base. Nice done on their part doing that. Now again, this Batcycle does come included with the alternate hand for Batman. Again, I kind of cried foul. Like, this certainly should have been something that would have been packaged, I think, with Batman initially. Why did it have to be the case that you would have to have bought the Batcycle? Let's just say I haven't sold you in this review of getting the Batcycle for yourself and adding it to the Batman figure that you already have. You had no intended plan of ever picking up this vehicle, so now you're sort of stuck with Batman always with a flat palm. I think it would have made more sense myself, and I'm not somebody that designs and markets toys. I guess I kind of market toys, but I don't design and sell toys. Let's just say that. It makes probably some sense in their minds. I don't think it makes any sense that Batman should have come included or shouldn't have come included with that gripping hand in the first place. Because again, if you're buying the Batcycle, you're probably buying it with either the intended plan of buying the Batman as well, or you already have the Batman. And in both the cases, I really think the gripping hand should have come included with the standalone figure first, and then just include the Batcycle with its trading card, which on its own is just silly, the fact that they would have included a trading card. But I would have included the gripping hand with the Batman figure, not packaged it with the Batcycle. It doesn't, the hand does not have to be the selling item for why you buy the Batcycle. You're buying the Batcycle because it looks cool. Not because you're buying it because you want the gripping hand for... Okay, I've said enough about Batman's gripping hand. What do you guys think, though, of the Batman's Batcycle? Pretty cool vehicle, though, eh? Let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of it, or if you've picked it up for yourself. What do you guys... Do you have it displayed with Batman on top? I'm kind of thinking most people that are buying the Batcycle probably now have Batman riding on top of it on their shelf. Let me know down below in the comments section, please, and thank you. If you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content you're seeing, a couple things you can do. First of all, you can hit that subscribe button down below. Second of all, you can turn on that bell notification. Third of all, keep your peepers peeled to this channel. While we have wrapped up things for the Batcycle for right now, we are going to be revisiting the Batman line from McFarlane Toys' team, because we are going to be looking at some upcoming figures, so make sure you keep your peepers peeled to this channel. As always, guys, once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.